Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum and good morning everyone. This is our second lab in object-oriented programming in Java at UTP. My name is Safwan As-Sulwi. I'm teaching groups on Thursdays. For this week we'll have our session online because we have some holidays during the week. In this tutorial we will learn how to apply the concept of classes and objects as you learn with Dr. Sobri in class. The session will be basically on 3 activities that we need to finish today. At the end of this session, you will learn how to apply the concept of classes and objects, and then how to apply some static members inside your Java programs. Before we start the activities, I would like to give you a little introduction about classes and objects in Java. If you need to create a class in Java, you need to create it inside a separate file, for example, or inside the other file. If you need to create like a class for fruit, then whenever you need to create an instance or object from that class, for example, you will create an apple, banana, and mango. All of these instances or objects belongs to the class fruit. Then if you have another class for cars, for example, then you can create from that class some copies or some objects like Volvo, Audi, and Toyota. So this is the basic concept of classes and objects in object-oriented. If we see some other examples here in the next page, how to create a class in Java. A class basically begins by declaring its name. For example, here we have public class main. Then after that, you have some attribute inside that class. For any class we create, usually it contains 2 things, some attributes and some methods. For creating an object from that class later on, you need to do it, for example, inside the main function. So we have our class called main, and in which we have one attribute, which is x with the value of 5. Now, this value is a default value for this attribute x. Later on inside your program, you can change that value to anything else. So inside your main function, you will just create an instance from that class. Our class is main. So I created an instance of that class. And then using the new keyword, I will say new main according to the class name. If your class is person, you will say person, for example. Person, my object is equal to new person. Then after that, this created object, you can use any attributes from the class, or you can access any method from that class. So here we have our object, my object.x. I accessed the attribute x using this object. Now, as you know previously, any object that you create will have its own copy of these attributes. If we see another examples how to create multiple objects. Now I have our attribute x, then I created 2 objects, object 1 and object 2. For each one now it will have its own copy, as I said. So if I try to test this code, now I created 2 objects, both of them now having the value of 5. But if I came here and say, for example, my object 1 dot x is equal to 10. Now I change the value of the object 1. Object 1, value of x. So it will take the value of 10, while the other one is still taking the default value of 5, because I already have a default value here. And that's why each object here inside our program will have its own copy of these values. And that's why whenever you create an object, it will hold its own value. Like as I said here, if I create an instance of the object car, then this object will have its own attributes for different objects. So by this little or small introduction, we can now start with our activities for today. So far, do you have any questions? It was just a little introduction to differentiate between classes and objects. Do you have any questions?
No.
Okay. Now, in activity number 1, I need to write a Java program with a simple clock. This activity you have already taken with Dr. Sobri in class, but let me repeat it so that you understand it a little bit more. I need to create a SimpleClock class that includes attributes for hours, minutes, and seconds. So these are my attributes inside this class. And then I need to add a constructor to initialize these attributes to 0, then a method to set the time, and a method to display the time. So this is my highlighted items that I need to create. Let me just make it like this. And then we need also to display the time in the format of 12 hours with AM or PM. And I have to create the main method to test my code. So basically, when you have any activity, you need to simplify it and know what are your main entities, your main classes inside that activity. And then after that, you need to highlight its attributes and methods that you need to create. Now, we know that we have to create a class called SimpleClock. So we'll change the default name of our activity or our program to SimpleClock. Then after that, our class will contain 3 attributes. We have hours, minutes, and seconds. And we need to create a constructor. Basically, a constructor in Java is a default function which holds the same name as the class name. So it must be called SimpleClock. The constructor must match the class name. This constructor, we use it to initialize the values of our objects. We have the default constructor, which basically does nothing but initializing the values to zeros or to the default values. If it is integer, it will be 0. If it is string, it will be null. That is a default constructor. Then it's up to you to create as many constructors as you want. And then we have to create another function to set the time and the function to display the time. Now, to write this program or to test this program, we need to use the main method inside the same class. So we don't have to create a driver class. If I need to create another class to test this one, usually we call it a driver class. So I will have my SimpleClock in a separate file and then another driver in another file. But for here, I will just make it inside the same activity, inside the same program. I will use IntelliJ as a program. You can use any other editor like Android Studio or Visual Studio Code, or you can also write your code online in any program, in any website like Online GDB or Programmings. In this one, I will just create a new project. If you are building something for Android, it's up to you. You can use this one. I have 2 tutorials in my YouTube channel. You can check this out. How to create a simple restaurant application, because at the end of this course, you have to create a simple project. That is in the case of Android. But for here, we are just creating a new simple program. So I will just call it week for lab 2. Just the name. Or let me just keep it week 4 LE2. And then activity 1. That is just my name that I will create inside this project. And then I will just make sure it is Java because the IntelliJ supports multiple language. So make sure to select Java and then click create. The program will automatically create our first file, which will usually call main. This is our main class. As you know, it has already been built for us. But according to our program, we need to call the activity SimpleClock. So I will just copy all of this and add it as comment. This is how we add comments in Java. So I will write the program here so we know what we are building. And let me usually this one, I don't know if you can see the font, but let me see in preferences how to increase it a little bit. Okay. Usually with Control Plus, we can increase the font size. Some editors, but here we have to go to this location to update. Still not visible. So 28. Okay, I'm increasing the display. Then we need to increase also the editor font size. Okay. Now, the first thing I need to rename this class to my given class name. So I will just copy this one. Then you can right click on the main and then you can go to refactor, rename. This is how you rename any class. Change the default name and then refactor. So now we have our class renamed. You can click on this run button just to make sure that the program is running correctly. You will see the output here. Hello world. Now we can start writing our activity according to what is given to us. So I will remove this one, and then inside my activity, I will start creating my attributes. As we know, we have to create hours, minutes, and seconds. So I can say integer hours. That will be my first attribute. Then minutes, and also we have seconds. This will be my 3 attributes. Now, as you have taken in class, we have something we called access modifiers. For this one, this is now the default access modifiers. So there is nothing written in front of these attributes. So we call it the default. And we can say private, and we can say also public. For private, public, protected, and default, they have different scope. If I create something as default, then as it is written right now, it can be accessed from within the same package. This is our package now inside our program. This is the package W4L2A1. This is the package. Now, if I create it as private, then this item or this attribute will belongs to the current activity. So it is private. I cannot see it from outside this class. If I call it protected, then we'll take on at some advanced classes in this course that we can access this item or this attribute from within this class and also from any inherited or subclass. You will get to know that one later. And if we call it public, then I can access this one from anywhere, from the same package, from another package. It is public, accessible to anyone. So for now, I can call it private. Just to organize our code, I will call it private. And then after that, I need to start creating my methods, what I will use inside this activity. For the methods, if you need to create some like getters and setters, in IntelliJ it is easy. You can click on generate and then you decide which function you need to create. I can create a constructor, getter, setters, whatsoever. So if I choose both and then select all, Control A and hit OK, I will create, as you see, the getters and setters for all these attributes. So for hours, I can have one function called get hours and one function set hours. That is automatically generate for all attributes I have. But for this session, we are not going to use these getters and setters. All I need to create is a constructor. As you can see, we can click on generate and then choose constructor and then decide which items we need to give. So I can select all and then OK. Now, the IntelliJ will automatically generate this constructor for me. Otherwise, I can write it from scratch step by step. So I have public, constructor is public. As I say, the constructor must match the class name. So my class is SimpleClock. My constructor should be SimpleClock. I cannot change the name. If I change the name to anything else like setClock, then that is just a normal function. It is not a constructor. So it must be the same name as the class name. And then it's up to me to choose how many items I need to give to this constructor. the default constructor doesn't have anything. It doesn't receive anything. But if I give it hours, minutes, and seconds, then I can use these items. For the hours, I will just receive the hours and then assign it to this.hours. The meaning of the keyword this, it belongs to the class. So this.hours, it means this one, the private integer hours that I created as attribute. But the other one, it is just an attribute. So I can change this one like this. So to avoid any confusion, we are just using this keyword to say that I'm pointing to the hours of the class, not the hours of this function or this constructor. So whatever I receive, I will just assign to my attributes. Now after that, from the question, we need to create a function set time and the function display time. So how can I do that? To set the time, I can create another function set time. That will be my function name. Then I need to write whatever before or after that function. I can say the function is public, so I can access it from anywhere. The function will set the time. So after setting the time, I will not return anything. So I will call that function void. If I need to return a message to the user, for example, I can return message or time set successfully. So that function should be string. So after that, I can come here and say return whatever I need. Okay. But right now, I will just call the function void because I don't need to return anything from this function. To set the time, I need to receive the same values here. So I'll just copy this one to here. So whatever I receive, I can assign. And then after that, we can copy these items here to here. Now, for this one, from the question, as you see, we have to create a constructor and initialize to 0. Okay, so that constructor will not set the values. It will be only the default constructor. So let me just write it here. So to make it default, I will just keep the default value of each value. So we have all of them as integer hours, minutes, and seconds. So the values will be zeros. But to set the time, I will keep it inside this function. So this is a function to set the time. You can always make some comments inside your program to keep it easier to you to understand it later. And then we need to create a function to display time. Okay. Now to create that function, I can also make it public. And then to display something, so I will not return anything, I will keep it void. Then display time. Now, to display my time, I have hours, minutes, and seconds, and I need to follow the format of AM or PM. So basically, I will write the code to trace that one. First of all, I can create a string. That string, I can call it AM, PM. Then after that, I will compare my given hours from the activity, and then decide if those hours are greater than 12, then it will be PM. Otherwise, it will be AM. So I can say, I can keep it simple like this one. Then write a condition. If this dot hours greater than 12, then AM PM will equal to PM. Else, I can say it will be AM. Now, I write it in, as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, in 5 lines. Because I check the hours. If it is greater than 12, it will be PM, otherwise it is AM. We can make a shortcut for these lines and merge them together. Basically, as you learn in Java, I can take the condition like this one and keep it inside parentheses, and then with question mark, I can then decide what will be the result if this condition is valid. So if the condition is valid, I will call it PM. Otherwise, if the condition is else, it is not valid, it is AM. And whatever value I will get, I will keep it inside the string AMPM. So all of these lines, I can just make it in single line. So I have the condition. If that condition is valid, if it is true, the value will be BM, will assign to this string. Otherwise, it will be AM. Then after that, I can now calculate the hours. In the same way, I can create another variable, which will be my hours that I need to display. So I can call display hours, which I can compare this dot hours. If it is greater than 12, then what will happen? In this case, I will take this hours and then minus 12. So if, for example, if the clock is 3 p.m., which is 15, I will take the 15 minus 12. So it will return 3. Otherwise, it will be this dot hours. If my hours are not greater than 12, for example, 9 in the morning. So this, when I compare 9, it is not greater. So it will take the 9. If it is like 20 is greater than 18, so it is 8 p.m. So the remainder will be 20 minus 12, which is 8. So it will be assigned to display hours. This variable will be 8. After that, I can make one more change to check the 24, or sorry, 12. If it is 12, then we'll have 12 minus 12, which is 0. In that case, it must be returned to its original value, 12. So I will compare this display hours. If it is 0, then I need to write it as 12. Then after that, my last output, which is a display time, my main output that I need to write. For this one, I can say system.out.println, or I can use print, or I can use printf. Since we have to display the time in a format way, then I can use the printf, which we have taken last class. This is just a print function that create a format in which you learn we have, or we can use %d for digit, we can use f for float, we can use s for string. So now I need to display the hours, the minutes, and the seconds in the way we see it in any clock. So I will start by hours, which is here in our case, it is integer. So I can say percentage d. But as you know, hours, they have 2 digits. So I will just say 0, 2. And then I will add a colon to separate the hours from the other parts. And then repeat it again, percentage 02d for the minutes. And then percentage, same thing, 02d for the seconds. And then at the end, I can write AM or PM. So I can just make it like this. After that, I need to give my attributes or my parameters for this function in the same order. So we have the display hours, our calculated hours here. And then we need to give it the minutes. From the same class, we have minutes. So I will just point to the minutes of this class. And then this dot seconds. And the last one, our calculated variable, AM/PM, the one we calculated here. Now, this function, whenever it's called, it will print or display the time. Now, the last thing, we need to create the main function to test our code. To create the main function, as we already taken from last class, it is public static void main. The meaning, the main function should be public. It should be static, so we can call it directly without any instance. It should be void, so there is no return value. It must be called main small, main with small case letters. And then it must also receive strings args. This is just a variable name. We can change it if we want. And then that's it. For now, let me just test the code, see if we have any syntax error. We don't have anything, so skillfully finished. Now we need to test our code. First of all, in order to call these functions or use this class, I need to create an object from the class. So I'll just take the class name, and then I can create one object, like object salary is equal to new symbol. It should be the same class name. Now we created an object from the class called object. And then I need to ask the user to enter the hours, the minutes, and the seconds. So I will make system.out.print like type hours, and it should be between 0 and 23. That is what we have as hours. And then after that, I need to get these values. Right here we have expected. Okay. We need to create, as you can see, we have a small mistake here. We have our constructor here at the beginning, which receives 3 values to initialize the values of this class. But currently we are not sending anything. So I must send it because I don't have the default. Sorry. Because I have created a constructor that receives 3 items. But in my function, I didn't send it anything. I can solve it in 2 ways. I can come at the beginning here and create a default constructor which with nothing at all, like this one. So right now I have a simple constructor, empty one, and I have another constructor that receives 3 items. Now I solve it in this way. So I don't have any error right now. Otherwise, I can just delete the other constructor and then give it 000. So it will assign hours, minutes, and second to zeros. So we have 2 solutions, either to create a default constructor, that is the default one, we call it default constructor. Because it is just a default one. And another one, a real constructor that will assign zeros to my attributes. So after that, I need to get the user input. To get the user input in here, I can use scanner, a class called scanner. And before I can use that scanner, I must, at the beginning of this one, I must import that scanner. Scanner belongs to utilities, which is a class in Java. I can call scanner, or I can also include all. So by writing all here, I will import everything. But if I call scanner only, then I just imported scanner only. Now inside my program, I must create an object from that scanner to use it. So scanner is equal to new scanner. This is how we use our scanner object. And then I need to specify from where it will read the values. So it will read from system.input. In our case, it is the keyboard. This is just an object. I can call it anything, for example, SCC or XY, but it is recommended to give it a proper name so you will understand what does it do. And then I will keep this one here at the beginning because I only create it once. No need to create it multiple times. It is just one time creation. And then I can use that scanner dot next. Scanner has multiple methods to read whatever values I need. Read byte or byte, next float, next int, next line. In our case, we'll use next int to read integers. And then I will assign this one to our variables. So I will create integer hours, and then I read the hours. Now, I will just repeat it multiple times. And I need to make sure that they are in proper way. Okay. Now, after getting these values, after getting the values for hours, minutes, and seconds, I can do it, or I can use the object I just created from the from this class object dot, and then I can call whatever I need. I can set time. To set the time, I need to send the hours, the minutes, and seconds. This function we created up here, we send it hours, minutes, and seconds. So it will receive these values and assign to the object. Or I can also use the constructor. Right here, we use the default constructor. So I can also use the other constructor to set our time. And then after that, I need to display. So we have display time. That's it. After setting the time, I call the function display time. So whenever I run this code, I will get my first message, type hours. So if I say 10 in the morning, minutes 50, and seconds, for example, 10, I will get 10, 50. This one we need to fix because we didn't get the seconds. And also we need to check this one. So let me see the function. This is for hours. This is for the minutes. So here we have display hours, minutes, seconds. Okay, percentage. I forgot the percentage here. And then we have percentage S for the last one. So let me run it again. 10, 50, 20. Okay, 10, 50, 20, correct. So just make sure you write it well. So let me try 14, which is 2 p.m. So 14, 10, 15. So it is 2 p.m. That is correct. I can test it with whatever values I need. For example, 12, 12, 12, 12. So it is 12 a.m. It is 0, 5, 10. So that will be 12 a.m. So this is our activity 1. By this one, we learn how to create a class and how to use constructors, attributes, and methods. Do you have any questions in activity 1? Now, let's take activity number 2. In activity number 2, we need to write the Java program that reads employees' hours worked for each day and then display the employees' total hours worked and the average hours per day. So I need to create a program for employees. So this one I just highlight. And then we need to keep track of hours per day and then display the total hours and the average. So I need to display the total hours and the average of each employee per day. We'll assume that the company has 3 employees and that the program should create 3 objects, one for each employee. For each one, the program should ask how many days the employees has worked in a week, and we'll assume we have 5 working days. Then the program should read the hours worked for each day, and we need to use static members to keep track of the total hours for all employees. We'll get to know what is the meaning of static here. At the end, the program should display for each employee the total hours worked and the average hours worked per day. Okay. Let me copy this one. I will open another activity because this one is our activity number 1. As you know, or you might not yet know, we inside the same package or inside the same activity, we can have only one main function. So I cannot come here and I cannot create another class with main function. So whatever you are going to do, it must be only one main function inside the entire project because we have only one starting point. So in this case, I can close the project and create another one. So I'll call it week 4, lab 2, activity 2. And then make sure it is Java create. Now, for this activity, I need also to rename it. So right click, rename, and then I will call it employee. This will be my class name. Inside the main function, I will just delete this one and start from scratch. I will write my comments here at the beginning. This will be my program, just to know what I'm writing. Is my voice still audible for you? Can you see the screen and hear my voice? Okay, thank you. Now, we need to start writing this program. As you see from the questions, we need to keep track of the employees, how many days they work, how many hours they work, and then I need to display the total and the average. So in this case, let me start writing from the main. I will start writing my program from the main function because this is where our program starts. So I will use also the scanner. So the first thing, import java.util.scanner. So after that, I will create one object from that scanner. Scanner is equal to new scanner from system n. That is my scanner in which I will use it to read my values. Then using the employee class, I will create object. So I can call it object1 or employee1 is equal to new employee. If I do this one, then I can repeat for 3 employees because the question say, assume we have only 3 employees. It is always a good behavior to create the default constructor. So right click, generate constructor, and then keep the default one because as you see, it has 3 usage because we already created 3 times here. So it's better to keep the default constructor here, even if you didn't use it. And then after creating 3 objects, I need to create a function to read the values of these employees. So for each object, like object1 or employee1, I need to read its value. So I must have a function. I can create a function, for example, input or get details. Sorry, it must be calling only. Get the details of this employee. And then in order to read the details, I can send it the scanner. Okay, I will send the scanner to this function. Why? Because if I didn't send the scanner, then I have to create this scanner inside the function get details. In that case, I will have 3 objects of scanners, which is not an efficient way. So it's better to create the scanner inside the main and send it to the get details function. So I will get details of employee 1, employee 2, and 3. So by this, I will have my details. Now let's just create the get details function here so we don't get that error. In order to get the details, I can call that function public, or you can say it private because we are inside the same class. And then the function will not return anything, and we have the name open and close. As you see from here, our function receives scanner. So I must give it scanner here. So scanner. Now we don't have any error. So we created the function get details. We'll come to fill the details here later. And then I need to have another function to display the values of each employee. So I can also call employee1 dot, for example, display. Let's call it display details. And then in order to display the details, I will not pass anything to that function. It is just a display. So as I say, any instance of the class, it has its own values, its own attributes. So if I set Ahmed to the object 1, Ali here, Juan here, whenever I print, it will print Ahmed, Ali, Juan. Okay, so each object will hold its own values from this class. And then at the end, I need also to display the total hours. Okay, because from the question here, we have something like static. Where is it? Here. We need to create static member to keep track of the total hours. Total hours work for all employees. So at the beginning, I can create that static variable, which will keep track of all the values. So now let's create private. It is hours, so it will be integer, and then total hours. Total hours. And then I will give it the value of 0. If I keep it like this one, then it is just a normal attribute. It is a normal attribute inside my class. But in order to keep it static, I must write static before integer. So private static integer total hours. The meaning of the keyword static, that this total hours now belongs to the class itself. So it doesn't belong to a specific object. So if I try to say, for example here, if I try to say employee 1 to total hours, I cannot find it because it doesn't belong to a specific object, but it belongs to the class itself. So there is one copy only from this variable. And we also need to create this function public void display open close. So we don't have any error here. And then after that, I will display that value system.out.println. Then I will say, for example, let me create /n in case we have empty line. Total hours worked by all employees. And then I will display the total. As you can see, I directly accessed that variable. The total hours, the static variable, I directly access that one. You should not do like this one. Total hours, it is not there. You cannot access that one using the object. So it is using only the class itself. Now, I need to write the details for get and display. But before doing that, what are the attributes we have inside the employee? For each employee, as you know, I can assign some variables because it is not mentioned explicitly inside the program. So let's say we have name. So I will say private string name. That will be the employee name. And then we have private integer days and private integer hours. This will be my variables inside this class, my attributes inside this class. And as you can see, I created all of them as private. It is always a good practice to keep your attributes private and then provide some functions to access those variables. As we say, we can create getters and setters. Okay, then after that, we need to start writing our functions. Let's start with the get details. I need to read the employee name, the number of days he works, and also the number of hours he works inside each day, as given inside the question. So I will start writing system.out.println, then, or let's use print so we don't have any new line. I will ask the user to enter the name of employee. And then I will get the name of that employee assigned to my name. Scanner dot next. Now, what is the data type of name? It is string. So we have a function called next line. Now I will read the name and then assign it to the name there. I can also say this dot name. But since we don't have any variable here, name, I don't have a name sending here because if you have name, in that case, you need to differentiate between the name that you receive and the name of the class, the attribute of the class, using the this keyword. But in our case, we don't have any variable here, so I can just keep it name is equal to scanner next line. Now, after reading the employee name, you can now asking for the number of days. So again, system.out.print, and then you will say how many days like John or Ali worked this week. So I can say here another way to write without using the format. I can just display the name, and then you say has worked this week, and then you specify that you have maximum days, question mark, and then whatever you will get, you will store inside the days, scanner.next end. Now we get our number of days. After getting this one, we need also to make a small conversion, because it is already written inside the question, assume 5 working days in a week. So in order to keep it only 5, you will make a simple condition. If these days is greater than the 5, in this case, you need to do what? To change the days to 5. So if I, by mistake, if I enter like 6, 7, if anything greater than 5, it will change it to 5. And then after that, you will show an error message, system.out.print. You will show a message for the user that there is something invalid value for days, maximum is 5. Okay, and then that's it. We check the condition. After that, we need now to start getting the number of hours inside each day. So in order to read, for example, if I entered 5, then I need to enter 5 times hours. For each day, we have one entry. So as you know, we can use any loop. I can use for loop, while loop, or do while loop. If I need to use the for, so let me create integer I starting from 1 until I reach the number of days, and then I plus plus. That will be my loop. Here we have semicolon. So I created my loop to start from day 1 until I reach number of days, because I already assign equal. So starting from 1 until I reach 5, it will run 5 iterations. And then I have I++ because we started from 1 until we reach 5. You can do it, of course, in the opposite way. You can start from days until you reach 1, and then you make it I minus minus. Then, after that, I will show a message to the user asking him to enter the number of hours inside that day. So in order to organize it, I can say enter, for example, Ahmad or Ali or Noor hours on day, and then I can print the day number. So here I can say plus I. Okay. In order to organize also a little bit, we can do plus like this one. So we'll have our message organized. In this type of messages, you can use this style, or you can use the printf and use %s here, %d here. So up to you. After getting this one, I can say enter. Let me create a variable h is equal to scanner.nextEnt. Since ours integer, then I will use nextEnt. So here I read the number of hours for day 1, then day 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I need to assign it to my current variable. So I can say hours, our class variable is equal to h. So now the hours I have inside the class, this one, as you can see, we have now one usage. Or if you need to make more sure it belongs to the class, then you can use this dot hours. You can use it or you can skip it, up to you. But if you have, remember, if you have the same variable, hours, then you need to use this keyword. So after assigning this one, this will be the hours for day 1. Then we have to update also the total hours. The static variable we created at the beginning, I need also to update it. Okay, right now it is just assignment, so I need to make plus. for both. Why? Because I need to keep track how many hours each employee work. So I will keep plus equal, which is the same definition as hours is equal to hours plus h, and total hours is equal to total hours plus h. And then we need to use this function here as our last function inside the get details. This one just to get rid of or remove the dummy inputs. We'll see the action with or without this function later on. Now we finish the get details, in which we read the name of the employee, how many days he work, and how many hours he work. Now we need to display these details. I need to display the details of each employee. So in order to display the details, let me start writing the function itself, system.out.print, so you understand what I need to print. I will use printf here. So in this function, I will try to make a printf to display whatever needed from my program. I need to display the name of employee, how many days he work, how many hours per day, and how many, what is the average. So let's say, let's make a new line at the beginning. I will say Ahmed, which is percentage S, the name of employee. Ahmed worked, and then how many days he worked. Days is integer, so percentage D. Ahmed worked, for example, 5 days. Okay. In how many days he worked those? In Ahmed worked 5 hours. In the days, average is, and then to print the average, it is percentage F. Percentage F. With average is per day. So this will be my message that I need to print. What did I do here? I will print the employee name. So after that, I will create comma. I will print the name. So that is Ahmed or Juan or Ali, whatever the name of the employee. So Ahmed worked, and then I need to print hours. So I will print the hours in how many days. So I print the days, and then I need to print the average. That variable is not there, so I will create it. And for average also, it is percentage F. So if you need to format the average, you can use .2. So it will have 2 decimal points after the number. Now I need to calculate the average. So let's call it double average. By default, I will keep it 0. Then I need to calculate. I will say average is equal to, how we calculate average? We divide hours by number of days. That's it. But we need to do a little bit modifications, because as I told you in previous class, hours and days, both of them are integer divided by integer. If my value, for example, is 5.65, if this is the average and you have integer division, then your output will be only 5. You will not have 0.65. So in order to do that, you need to convert your value to double, or to whatever you need to make here. If it is float, it is float, double. So when you convert the division to double, you will have the entire number. Okay. Now, in order to avoid a mistake, which can be a normal mistake, if the user enters days as 0, then you will have division by 0. You will have an error, division by 0. In order to avoid that, you can check if days is greater than 0, or if days is not equal to 0. In that case, you can divide. So if days is greater than 0, then you calculated the average. Otherwise, you can show a message and stop the program, or in our case, you just show a 0. So if days is greater than 0, then we calculated the average. Now we finished the program. Let's make a demo. see if we don't have any syntax error. So we get our first line from the get details for employee 1 because we call this function 3 times. So let's say Ahmed, our first employee. Then I will get the second message. See this one? How many days? How many days? Then I printed Ahmed from here. Has worked this week. So let's say he worked 5 days. And then I will get, if we don't have this one, we don't have it. I will get my first message for the first day. Enters Ahmed hours per day 1. Okay, let's say he worked 10 hours in day 1, 9, 7. Okay, so we entered 5 values for Ahmed. And then second employee, let's say Johan. And then how many days Johan works? So 3 hours she works. So enter day 1, let's say 555, 3 times. So 15. And then enter the last one, let's say Noor. How many days? Let's say 2 days with value 5 and 6. So after getting all of this, remember we have 3 objects. So as you can see, for each object, it will hold its own value. So the first one is Ahmed. We have one line to display Ahmed details. Ahmed worked 40 hours. So is that right? If you calculate these values, it should be 40 in 5 days because we entered 5 for Ahmed. And then the average is what you get 40 divided by 5, it is 8. And that's why we have 2 decimal point because in the display message, in the display, we specify 2. If you change it to 3 or whatever you need, it will be more than that. Then 15 divided by 3 is 5. 10 divided by 2 is 5. Total hours, how we get this total hours? We have at the end, we have static variable, total hours. So as you can see, using the static member, we can get like something belongs to all objects. We have 3 objects. That total, since it is static variable, so it belongs to the entire class. So every time inside the loop here, we are calculating and adding to the total static. So it will take the total number of hours. By this, we finish our activity number 2. Do you have any questions in activity 2? We explain it step by step in details. So hopefully my explanation is clear to you. If you have any questions, please ask me. Otherwise, we can go to activity number 3. Okay, guys, let's see activity 3 in the slides. You can do more practice later after we finish the class. Activity 3, we need to write a Java program for a lecturer to register students in the course, in the courses that the lecturer teach this semester. Assume that the lecturer teach 2 courses for this semester. So this is one assumptions we have here. And only 3 students are interested to enroll in each course. So we have courses and we have some students who will join these courses. So for the course, since it will have some attributes, so this one will be a class. And also we have the students. Student will be another class. So identify and list down the classes that you need to have with the attributes and behaviors in each classes. So I need to highlight my classes and my attributes and my behaviors or methods or functions for these classes. And then we need to define the classes, use static members to keep track of the student enrolled for each course. Okay, in the same way we use static in previous class to track the total number of hours. We need to keep static member here to track the number of students enrolled for both classes. And here we need to have a driver class. So far in activity 1 and 2, we created everything inside the same class, inside the same file. But here we need to create a driver class. When you see a driver class, then you need to create a separate file to write your main function. That driver class will create the objects necessary to register students and display the student enrolled. So test and try. Okay. Now let me close this activity and then create a new project. Week 4, Lab 2, Activity 3. Create. Now, we have our main class. I will put the question here. This will be our class. Okay. Let me just organize this one. Okay, like this one. Now, as you know, this will be my driver class. So the name is main. Main is same. I told you in first class, if you have created the file main.java, then your class that contains the main method should be in the same name. So main here and main here. After that, you can create your other classes. So for this one, we need to create a class for student and a class for course. You can right click on the project, new Java class, and then choose whatever you need to create. So how I do that? New Java class. And then let me call it student. Now, as you see, I created a separate file. This is the driver. This is the student. And also I can create another one for the course. Now I have 3 classes. For students, I can now assign the variables or the attributes they will have inside any object. So let's keep it simple. I will just say string the name. Each student will have a name and also an ID. That ID, I can keep it integer, or you can call it string as well. So you can have character and digits. Now, while working in IntelliJ, as you see before in our first activity, and also during my freelancing Android projects, usually I generate here a constructor, the default one, simply like this, and then you can insert, create another one for everything, and then some getters and setters. How you do that? It's by practice, but let me just make it a little bit here. So right click or choose the default one. Don't choose anything from these attributes, and then OK. This will be your default constructor. So whenever you create an object and you didn't assign anything, that object will be having null values. And then you need to create another constructor that will be receiving the name and ID. So select everything. So now I have another constructor that receives the name and ID of student. And since this one is private and private, you can create some getters and setters. Come to here, getters and setters, select all. So now you have one function to get the name, one function to set the name. So since our variables, name and ID, are private, they are private variables, so I cannot access them from the main function because this is a class, this is another class. Since they are different classes, if in order to use the details of student, I need to create a getter. So get name, it will get me the name of the student. Get ID, it will get me the ID of student. This one in object-oriented we call encapsulation. You will take it in advanced classes, encapsulation. Encapsulation is how you keep your items private, and then you provide a getter to get these values. So we have get name, get ID, get whatever you need, and then we have setter to set a value inside that variable. In order to assign a name, you will say set name. In order to set an ID, you will say set ID. So now we finish with student class. If we go to course, then what I need to have inside this course, I will have some attributes as well. So let's say I will have the course code. So we have code, and then what else we can say? For each course, I can have the capacity. So how many or what is the limit of this course? How many students I can enroll in this course? And also I can have one array from students. So as you can see the students there, I can create enroll students. And also I can say another variable to keep the count. So count. So this one will be the course code, the total capacity of this course. This will be the array in which I will store my enrolled student in this course. And then I will have another function to, or another variable to keep track of the current count. And after that, from the question, you need to use a static member. Inside the same question, we have this line. I need to use static member to keep track of the number of students enrolled for each course. So I need to create something static. So let me call it public, so I can access it from anywhere. Public static integer total enrollment starting from 0. So this number or this variable will hold the total number of students enrolled in all courses. If course 1 has 4, course 2 5, then 4 plus 5 will be 9 stored here. Now, after that, I need to create my constructors. As we know, we can right click, generate constructor. I will create the default one. It's always a good practice to have a default constructor and then another constructor to hold all these values. So what I need inside this constructor, whenever I create an object, I will give it the code of this course and then the capacity. I don't need these values. So you can just delete these two lines. So I created my constructor in which I will use to assign the code and capacity of each course. Then what I will do here, as you know, this is an array. So how can I use the array inside my constructor? I will create it. So I will say this dot enrolled student. That is an array. We know in our first class, how can we create an array? We need to use the new keyword, new, and then from the same data type. Our data type for this array is student. So I will say new student. Okay. And then it will be from the capacity. In C++, whenever we need to create an array, it is integer x and that's it. This is how we create an array in C++. But in Java, in order to create an array, you must say integer x is equal to new integer, and then you give it the value. This is how we do it in Java. So that's why instead of this integer, I keep it student because our array is from student data type. This is an array of students. And the array name is enrolled students, so I initialize that array. For every course I create, it will create an array of that capacity. Clear? And then after that, I need to initialize the code, not the code, the count. I need to initialize the counter. So by default, all of them will be 0. Now, we will have one function to enroll, another function to display. So public void enroll. That function will enroll student inside the course. So, and another function public void display. Let me call it display. And then I will print whatever I need in here. Now, let's see our, I will come to finish these functions later after you understand the driver. So inside the driver now, I need to start creating my objects. So as given per the question, we will assume that lecturer teach 2 courses and only 3 students inside a course. So I will start creating my courses. So here I can say creating courses, objects, creating. So how can I create an object from the course? You must call the course class and then give it a name like C1 or object1 is equal to new course. As you see, if you go to the course class, we have the default constructor and we have the actual constructor. So here we send code and capacity to this constructor, to this function which called the course or constructor. I will send the code and the capacity of this course. So let's start by saying, for example, computer science 101, and then this will be the code and comma capacity. Capacity is 3 because we have assumed that one from the beginning. And then I will create another course 102 and then C2. So now we created 2 objects from the course. After that, you need to creating students. You need to create students. So in order to create students, go to the student. You have to give the name and ID for that student. So I have a constructor that will receive the name of the student and the ID. So inside the driver class, I will say student, student1 is equal to new student, and then give it in the same order. We have what was the order, name and ID. So the name you can say Jubran, and then the ID of Jubran, let's say what is the ID? It is integer. Sorry, it is string. So let's say S1. Keep it simple. Now I need to create how many students? We need to create 3 students, and we have 2 courses. So that one must be repeated 6 times. So I will just 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then we need to give different values here. Now let's give some names. I will keep here I will keep all males, and here Joan, Layan, and Zumrud. So we have 3 ladies in course 2 will be assigned, and we have 3 men in the course 1. Okay. Now I need to do enroll, and then I need to do display. So for the enroll function, we have one function called enroll inside the course, and we have another function called display. So in order to call these functions, I must call them using the course object. So we have course 1, the first object, dot enroll. So if I do that, I will enroll something, but what is that thing? I can send student 1. Okay, I can send the first object, which is student, to the course. So I will go to that function because right now I don't have a function that receives student, and update that function to receive the student. So let's say student. So the function will receive the student object and enroll it in that course. So that one I can do with student 1, student 2. So as I say, the first 3 student 1, 2, 3, the 3 object of the male, these 3, I will enroll them in course 1. So I call them by object 1, course 1, and then I enroll. I can repeat this one with now 4, 5, 6. So the ladies will join course 2. That's how we differentiate between our enrollment. each object, each copy of the course class, I will call it with the specific student. So Jubran, Ahmed, and Muhammad will enroll in course 1. And then Joan, Leanne, and Zumurad will join course 2. After the enrollment, I need now to display how many students in course 1, how many students in course 2. So using the same variable, or it's the same object, course 1, I will call the display function because we have a function called display here. And after that, I will call it also with object 2 to call to display the student enrolled in course 2. And last thing, I need to display total. The total, as you know, we have it from the static variable here. We have total enrollment. So in order to call that variable, I can call it using the course itself. So system.out.println total enrolled students in all courses, and then plus I can now, as I say, call that one directly, total enrollment using the course. You are not allowed to say course1.total. You will not get that one because total enrollment is static variable. It belongs to the class itself. So course dot, now you'll see total, it is there. You can access total enrollment using the class name. And then that's it for the basic. Now you need to fill the enroll and display. But let me just run it. Okay, of course. Right now we don't have any enrollment, but our program is working fine without any syntax error. We got our message total here, 0. Now we need to add the functionality that we need inside our course. We need to fill or write these two functions. If we start by the enrollment, now I need to enroll student I will receive Ahmed, Jubran, Zumurud, whatsoever. For each student, I need to enroll it in its class or in its course. So before I enroll the student, I will make a conversion. If my current count, which start from 0, is less than the capacity, because we need to keep track what is the limit of my course. For example, if my capacity is 3, as per given inside the question, and when we create the course here, we created the capacity 3. So maximum we are allowed to add 3 students. And counter start from 0. So I will check if it is less than capacity, I will allow the enrollment. Otherwise, I can show a message system out.println. For example, you can say maximum capacity reach, or let's make it more details, course, and then you print the course code. The code itself is full. So you'll say the course is full. Okay, that is how you can organize it. And then if it is less than the capacity, you need to add the student to the array. What is our array name? It is enrolled student. So enrolled student in the current index is equal to the student. The student that I receive, the object for Ahmed, for example, it will be assigned to the index 0. Then whenever I receive another student, it will be assigned to the second location. So how can I do that one? I need to increase. So count plus plus. After index 0, it will be index 1, index 2, etc. Now I increase the total count, the current count, and also I need to increase the total count. This one, the static member. So also that one will be increased. Now every time I add new student inside the course, I will increase both counters, the local counter and the global counter. And that's it for my enrollment function. Now for display, I need to display all students enrolled inside the course. So let me start by making a print, system.out.print, and then I will make like a organized list of students. So let's say 1, 2, 3, and then student name enrolled. So I can print the count, how many total students enrolled for this course. For example, three students enrolled in course. Then I need to print the course code. Okay, 3 students enrolled in course. Then I will print the course code. That's it for the beginning. Then in order to print the students one by one, we have our loop. We have our array of students. So I can create a loop to loop through these students one by one and print their details. There is something called for each, which easily you can use it to go through these students one by one without the using of the normal for. But let me try the normal one because this is what you study before. So we have integer I is equal to 0, I less than the count, I plus plus. So we started from 0 and then until we reach the total number of students enrolled for this course, I will keep looping. And then my message will be system.out.print. Then I can now print the details I need. I will print at the beginning. I need to print like ascending numbers 1, 2, 3, 4 according to my capacity. So let's say I plus 1 because I start from 0. So I will just print I plus 1. And then I need to print the student name and the student ID. So let's say name, and then I will print the name of student. I can get the name of student from the array itself dot. As you can see, I cannot access the name. Now, how can I do that? Remember when we create the student, we create it as private attribute. If that one is public, then we can access it. See, there will be no error. I can access the name because it is public. But this is not a good practice in object-oriented. You have to learn the correct practice is by making your variables private, and then you provide a function to access that variable. This is what we call encapsulation, as I told you. So how can I access the name? Using getName. So now using the getName function, I can access the name of student. And then I can print the ID. Make a comma here for organizing, then plus using the array in location I dot get ID. And that's it. You will get the details of your student one by one. So let's see how the output will be. Otherwise, we can organize our work. Okay. We have the message. Let me see it here. We created 2 classes, 2 courses, CS 101, 102, and we have 6 students. And we enroll the male in the course 1, female in course 2. So I got the message, 3 students enrolled in course 101, our increment 1, 2, 3, and then Jubran with his ID, Ahmed Muhammad. And we have another message, 3 students enrolled in the other course with their ID and names. So that is correct, total 6. Now, let me try to add another one. If I copy this one, I will try to add another object inside. I created that object. Then I will try to assign this one here. I will try to assign it to course 1. But remember that course 1 has capacity of 3. So see what will happen here. You will get course is full. We are not allowed to add more than that. But if I increase the capacity, let's say 5. For course 1, we increase the capacity to 5. So I have the message. We don't have the full message. So I have 4 students enrolled in course 1. We have 4 students and then 3 in the other course. Total is 7. So our program is working fine. We can increase the capacity to allow more students to join. And that's why we can create an object and enroll it inside the course. By this, we finish activity number 3. Do you have any questions in this activity? Any question at all from activity 1, 2, or 3? I will open the chat. Maybe you have some message there. Okay. Some of you asking about the code. Sure, I will share the codes with you for the 3 activities. I will share later after we finish. Do you have any other questions? If you cannot turn on the mic, you can write in the chat box. Hopefully from this class you understand the concept of a class and its instances, objects. How can we define these attributes, methods, and how can we create a driver class to access our attributes or functions that we write. Okay. By this we finish our class. I will share the code as I said, and the recording you can see it anytime. And I will see you around inshallah next week. Have a nice day.